Rachel Smith.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. I am president of the PTA Council in New Hartford, and I also have a 7th grader and a 9th grader at Perry. So I just want to start by saying that I feel really lucky to be in New Hartford. We have great teachers, we have a great administration, and I really appreciate everything this Board of Education does for our schools. So I just am here just to give a little bit of, I guess, a different perspective on the core curriculum, as from the PTA and from my personal view. So, sorry. So first of all, I completely understand why so many people are so upset with the core curriculum. There are many, many problems, and there are actually a lot of other states that happen to roll it out a little bit nicer, and they're not having any of these issues. In fact, they've embraced it and are doing really well with it. So we should be frustrated and we should be lobbying. And as a PTA, or through the PTA I should say, I have been lobbying and others have been lobbying all year. And I even have, I've read a couple things. So one, this was a letter we sent out in October, and it went to, senators, it went to assemblymen, governor, John King. You can read the list, I'll pass it around. But I just want to kind of read some of the key points that the PTA feels. We recognize this letter is trying to tell these people, the government, that we want to recognize families as an essential partners in education and hear our voices of concern. We want to suspend the link between student performance on required Common Core tests and individual educator performance until Common Core instructional elements have been fully and properly implemented. We want to promote flexibility in measuring achievement of student learning objectives that leads to reduced student testing. We would like to evaluate the current cumulative testing program to make best use of student time, to assess students' mastery and needs, to shape instructions, reduce test length, explore options to annual grades in 3rd through 8th testing that permits states required student assessment on a less frequent basis. We want to embed field test items into required assessments to eliminate time devoted to standalone field testing. Invest in professional development that supports continuous improvement of instruction. Identify and promote effective professional development models. Invest in capacity building professional development for those who observe and evaluate instruction. Fund professional development that links classroom instruction to individual and collective performance goals. Support continuous evaluation and research to update standards, curriculum, instructional best practices, and resources. So again, this is a sample of a letter that was sent out by the PTA. Thousands and thousands of people were lobbying for this. Can I pass this around?
Can we keep that copy, Rachel?
Yeah. Right. It's got some of my personal information, but just don't pass it on.
Publishing it now.
So anyway, and I also spoke in November, there was a forum of legislators. There were 4 legislators that came to the area, and we spoke, and I spoke again personally about some things that I will talk about in a minute, and also about how since the beginning of the year we've been talking to people in all the school buildings. We've been talking to teachers, we've been talking to students, we've been talking to parents to kind of find out how people feel on the council. And I brought back those complaints, and again, they were very similar. We know the problems. I know I don't need to keep going through them. So, there are a lot of issues with the Common Core, and they guaranteed me that things would change. And in fact, in January they had a meeting. They formed a task force, and they are working on these changes. Some of them already have been implemented in New Hartford. I believe that we don't do as much testing, right, in the younger grades anymore.
We reduced the testing.
We reduced it.
All
Right. So that is already, you can already see some of these results. So I strongly believe that people need to keep lobbying the government for these changes that are, apparent. Now, personally, going back to my kids, I would never choose to opt out my children. And the main reason is that, first of all, I think it's just great practice taking any kind of standardized test, to me. Especially for my child in 7th grade, who in 9th grade is going to have to take this test, and it's actually going to count on her transcript. And she can't even move up if she doesn't take it. To me, there's just great practice. It's a standardized test, and unfortunately, that's what we take. We've been taking them for years, and it will help her with it will help them with SATs. It will help them with there's tons of standardized testing out there that we have to take. So that's how I feel. I feel very strongly that it's just a help to them. It's just practice. At this point, from 3rd to 8th grade, it doesn't count on the transcript. It doesn't do anything. Now, going back, my daughter Jordan, who is now in 7th grade, way before the Common Core, or I shouldn't say way before the Common Core, but before the Common Core, in 3rd and 4th grade, she used to get test anxiety. She used to literally she would get stomach aches before every single test in 3rd and 4th grade. And of course, before this, they had state tests then too. They before the ELAs and the math assessments, she used to get stomach aches. So I basically worked through it with her, and I said, why do you feel, I tried to figure out why she felt so much pressure, because I always told my kids, try your best, but I'm not going to get upset with you if you get a bad grade. And I think maybe it was from her older sister, because her older sister did well, I don't know. Anyway, we got through it. By the end of 4th grade, she was fine taking tests, never was anxious, never was, she was fine. And to both my kids, the new tests aren't that much different than the older tests. They don't notice a bigger time difference. They don't have trouble finishing it. Or if they do, my older daughter does have trouble finishing the English, but she did before too. So they haven't noticed much difference in that. There might be some differences in the actual, I guess, questions, but they don't seem to notice much difference. And I just wanted to, this morning, I heard, someone told me to listen to Bill Keeler, because he talked about some of this morning. So I just had to write down, what he said was, he asked the question, are the pressures that we are putting on our kids, or the pressures that the kids are feeling, how much is that from the Common Core changes in curriculum, and how much are we imposing on our kids by talking about it so much and bringing it up so much? So I just want to put that quote out there. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, Superintendent Noel, members of the board, and fellow community members. My name is Marian Murray, and I am the proud parent of 4 students here at New Hartford, ages 10 through 17. I had heard that members of our faculty, as well as parents of some of our students, were given an opportunity to present their opinion on Common Core. I, too, would like to offer mine as well. My husband and I moved our family to New Hartford from Philadelphia 8 years ago. The education of our 4 children was one of the only priorities taken into consideration when we moved here. We researched through websites, available data, and realty companies. We chose New Hartford Central School District because of the overwhelming evidence that this district would set higher standards of learning, higher than other local schools and higher than state requirements. State tests provided evidence to us that the administration and the teaching staff were more than accomplishing the goals set forth by the state, and we have been more than happy with our decision to move here. Your dedication to higher standards are also reflected in your offering high school students opportunities to take many AP classes in high school. Not only does this district offer the AP classes, but they also offer the instruction necessary for students to achieve those standards to receive college credit. Once again, I thank the school board, the superintendent, and all of the teachers that make this possible. I would also like to share, divert a little bit, and share a story about one of my children's AAU basketball experiences. Over the weekend, I witnessed my child's team go down in flames to an incredible team by a whopping 30 points. Our team made mistake after mistake. You'll have to forgive me, my hands will shake and everything, but I'll get over it. It'll be okay. And quite frankly, the other team was that much better than we were. After the game, we found out that we would have to play the same team again in the championship. With what few precious hours remained until the big game, the coach went back to the drawing board. He changed the strategy, worked with the girls, and focused their attention on two things: breaking the press and getting better at a 2-3 defense. And I hope I said that right. I know for certain defense. The two teams played again, and drum roll please, they lost again. This time though, the score was 14-12. There was screaming and yelling and hugging, and kudos shared from the other team, because what we witnessed was our team growing out of a loss, getting back in the game, and their success was not measured by a score, but by rather their growth. I tell you this because these students of the game learned something called grit. Once again, to you all, thank you to New Hartford Central Schools for giving my children the opportunity to learn grit. They have learned this through the sports program when they haven't made the team they tried out for. They have learned this when they haven't earned a starting position. They have learned grit through their music programs. They've had times when they have had to audition for first chair, second chair, for district choir, chorus, all-county orchestra and band and other music programs. They have also learned grit through participating in the NISMA solos. All of these experiences have made them stronger at heart and in character. They know that all good things must be attained through drive, determination, and hard work. Thank you to the administration and the music teachers who have helped them find that grit. So now, my final thank you. Thank you for allowing my children an opportunity to find grit in their thinking. Two of my children were able to work hard today to once again show what they know. They were given a year of instruction to help give them what they needed to at least try. Thank you to all of you for realizing that learning grit is an important life characteristic that's necessary for all of our students to compete in a global economy and a market. It's not just about competing locally. I am here as the other 70% in our district who wanted my children to prove what they can do in their classroom, just like I want them to in music and sports and in future years their job. Thank you, as you are making decisions for not only maintaining the Common Core standards, but for showing grit as a learning community by making New Hartford exceed the standards as they have always done in the past. Our students can do this. Our districts can do this. I appreciate your time, your dedication, and your inner grit to work through all of the changes. It isn't easy. It is my hope that you will continue as you have in the past to keep looking forward so that our students and our whole community continue to be proud of the high standards set forth by New Hartford Central School District. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Laura Russell, and I am a senior at Hamilton College. I have a little bit of a presentation that I'd like to pass. I want to take one to pass around. And I have a few extra copies if you guys in the audience would like to also take some. So as I said, I'm a senior at Hamilton College, and so I hope to offer just a little bit of a different perspective on the Common Core standards. This fall, I worked with Mary Ann in her classroom and created an independent studies project as part of my education minor at Hamilton. My goal of the project was to teach future Hamilton students about the Common Core, because it is something that's in the classroom, and a lot of principals were coming to Hamilton College students not wanting them to come and observe in their classroom without knowing a little bit about the Common Core. So I spent about 120 hours in Mary Ann's classroom this fall and learned a lot about the Common Core. And what I want to show you tonight is some of the differences I see in the standards, and also how I see the standards apply now to my life in college, and how I see that it will help these students in the future do really well in college and be successful. So one of the things I think that's really important to notice is that the standards aren't curriculum. One of the things that I saw when I was observing in the 4th grade classrooms at Clinton Elementary was that the 4th grade teachers were all teaching the standards a little bit differently. And I was able to see the same lesson taught by 2 different teachers. And if the numbers, it was a math lesson, and if the numbers and the problems had not been the same, I would not have been able to tell you that I saw the same thing. So what was really interesting to me was seeing how each of the teachers took the problems and adapted it to their students, because they were able to meet their students' needs, and I think that's what's really important. Another thing that I noticed was the progression in the lessons, and also from grade to grade. And I also observed in Tracy's classroom, and she teaches 2nd grade at Clinton Elementary, and I saw that what the 2nd graders were learning was going to be so helpful to them when they got to 4th grade. I saw the 2nd graders in November, I believe it was, and they were learning things that Mary Ann had to teach her students in September. And so by the time these 2nd graders get up to 4th grade, they're going to have this amazing background knowledge and really be able to perform. So if you see, from year to year, as the students keep working with the standards and keep learning the skills and the tools that they need to be successful, it's going to just get better. And all the little things will get worked out, and the students will just continue to be successful. Going along with that is the higher expectations that I saw that students were learning. The 4th graders were learning things that I learned in middle school. And I was very fortunate. I went to a really great private school. And so to see these students learn things, learn how to write a thesis statement, learn how to take evidence from historical text and write about it, I didn't learn that until 8th grade. And I would consider myself very lucky with my education. So I think that's really important, and that's going to help them become successful in college, their jobs. And so that kind of brings me to my final point and how I see these standards relate to college life. As I said, I go to Hamilton, and what we learn at Hamilton is critical thinking, problem solving, writing, and communication. And I see these standards as giving tools to students to be able to complete all of these things. Again, with their critical thinking and their writing, the students are having to make inferences to interpret text at much younger ages. And the more they practice this, the more they see this, the better they're going to get, and the more prepared they're going to be when they end up in college and when they end up at Hamilton. And then, additionally, with the problem solving. This whole project that I did came from problem solving. The principal at Clinton Elementary School emailed me in the spring and said, last spring, sorry, when I was a junior, and asked if I could come observe in one of his classrooms, and said, no, I'm sorry, you can't because you don't know about the Common Core, and I think you'll unfairly judge our teachers, so I don't want you in my classroom. So what did I do? I didn't just say no, okay, fine, I'll have to go find another school. I went back to him and I said, you know what, let's work together, and maybe I can create something and learn about the Common Core this fall, and then create something for future Hamilton students. And that's problem solving, and that's what these students are learning with the Common Core, is they see a math problem that they've never seen before, and they know how to solve it because they're learning skills. They're not learning formulas and then just regurgitating information. Because I know personally that's how my math experience was. So I think it's really important to see those differences and notice how the standards can be helpful to create these different skills in our students.
give another parent perspective. My name is Pam Kane. I have 4 sons. My oldest is a freshman in college now, so he's been all the way through the school system and loving college. And I thank New Hartford schools for giving him a good curriculum to end up at a good school. My second one's a junior at the high school. My third one is a freshman at the junior high, and my youngest is a 6th grader at Miles. So I'm a member of all 3 PTAs and also a member of the PTA Council.
And St. John's Religious Board of Education.
And St. John's Religious Board of Education. And the mom of a Notre Dame Fighting Irish son. So there you go. And I will concur with, I really like Bill Keeler's comment. I had not heard that this morning about how are we creating that stress, and that's a lot of what I'm going to speak to right now. There has been much debate over the last few months about the Common Core curriculum implementation and testing. Many have voiced opposition to their child taking these new Common Core state tests. I am here to speak on the other side of that as it relates to my child. First, my child has not been negatively affected coming into the test that started today. He is not stressed by taking these tests or learning in a different way. I believe that learning in a different way improves the ability of others to learn what they might not otherwise understand, and gives those that already know the material another way to look at topics. I'm not saying that I agree or disagree at this point with the Common Core standards or its implementation, but I do thank this debate for opening my eyes and really digging into it, because with 4 sons at home, I don't get a lot of communication at home. The good, the bad, or the ugly, I don't really hear. So they've been pretty even keel when it comes to any kind of testing. But with the Common Core standards, it really got me in and looking at what they're all about. And I think your presentation, very good, very well done. The jury's still out on these 2. I think there's still a lot of debate to be had. However, I don't believe the answer is to put our kids in the middle of this debate and opt out of the testing altogether. While we have to be sensitive to kids with special needs and those who are over anxious, I believe we are creating that anxiety in many of these kids. The state tests have always been a part of the process. Now we have a different curriculum to evaluate. While they might be overly long, don't we need to create a baseline assessment to move forward and make adjustments? If all the data is based on personal anecdotes, then how can we prove our point of whether or not these core curriculum standards are working or not? How will we know if these are the right standards and the right approach if we do not at least assess where our kids are now as compared to these standards? What harm does it do? Assuming we continue moving forward with the Common Core standards, these tests only serve to give my child more practice, as Rachel said as well, on taking them, so he will be better prepared for future assessments. Testing will always be a part of our curriculum. Again, this gives my child another way to practice. Is it the fact that teachers are being assessed on the results that has some kids stressed? Or the fact that parents are worried that their child will be labeled as needing extra help? If it doesn't matter at this point how they do, why not test? Personally, I want to know how my child does, so at least I have a basis for discussion on this curriculum and its implementation. Otherwise, I have none. In our home, we teach our children to do their best and have fun, even when it comes to testing. We also teach that nothing comes easy or is handed to us. If it is challenging, then we are likely learning something. And if it is difficult, then it is up to us to learn, ask for help, and likely work harder. For me, the question is not whether to have my child take the test or not. The bigger questions are, first, how do we implement the Common Core standards better so our kids feel better prepared to take the test? And second, how do we assess whether these Common Core standards are working to improve our child's overall education? I do believe we need a change in our education system to compete better on a global level, and change is often difficult. I am worried that the Common Core is the Common Core simply a federal mandate to bring our standard to the middle? New York does very well, and are we making a federal mandate? So I think that's a big part of the debate. Hopefully, though, we are working to not only bring up those who are struggling, but also enhance the education of those who are already excelling. I feel we can only assess where we are today and therefore where we need to get by taking these tests. And so far after day one, I'm happy to say that there are no battle wounds after the first day on the home run of testing. So thank you.
Lori Zaman, 4 Butternut Road, New Hartford. I'm here today as a mother of 4, our high school PTSA president, the New York State PTA Leatherstocking Region Director, and a former New Hartford Board of Education member. After last week's Board of Education meeting, I felt it was imperative you hear a positive voice as it pertains to Common Core. My oldest daughter graduated from New Hartford in 2013, and as a second semester freshman, she is a junior academically pursuing a professional degree in architecture and a professional degree in structural engineering on a full tuition merit scholarship at the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. You see, Kalila challenged herself with an abundance of opportunities New Hartford provided her and was able to transfer 53 credit hours toward her degrees. AP classes are not mandatory, but I would never ask that you take them away. There are some students that wish to be challenged, and I thank the New Hartford School District for affording those opportunities to our children. My son Siraj is a junior here in New Hartford and enrolled only in AP classes this year and plans to continue that rigor in his senior year. Neither of these kids experienced the Common Core standards, but yet I do agree that they are well prepared for their future. My youngest daughter, Sophia, is a 7th grader at Perry and thriving. She was exposed to the Common Core standards last year and is doing as stellar as she always has. She was here last week and on the way out of the meeting was asking many questions. Mom, what is all the hype about with the Common Core? Why are kids saying their parents are opting them out of state tests? And why are teachers telling kids they should opt out? I can't even tell the difference. And some of my friends tell me they are doing much better in school as compared to before. I know some of my friends get anxious before taking tests, but they always seem to be that way. I have a little guy at home who's only 3, about to be 4 in June, and I know that somebody mentioned last week that they're like nervous. I can't wait for Kai to start school. I can't wait for him to be exposed to the new standards. He already runs circles around us. I can only imagine what he's going to do after that. You see, I believe children learn what they live. And in my home, we do not speak negatively about the Common Core standards. We are not talking about opting out of testing. We do not give ultimate power to the state tests. In elementary school, my kids were always tested every Friday, spelling, reading, and math, and they participated in state assessments. I see these state tests as a way to assess the child's learning progress and offer a level of accountability toward our educators. We are blessed with talented teachers in our district. I do not foresee an entire classroom performing poorly as a result of bad instruction. Not all kids are created equal. Not all kids will perform at the top. Nothing in life is like that. With all of the passion that was exhibited here last week, you cannot tell me that some children at home and in the classroom are not feeling the ill effects of negative energy. I personally felt like I was in an opt-out forum last week and not a Board of Education meeting. 2 hours of public comment would have been better served in a separate session where parents and teachers had the opportunity to vent. Without reasonable solutions being offered, without conversations taking place with members of Congress, we will just continue to breed negative energy around our kids. Individual board members speaking out against Common Core at the meeting and on social media displays a fractured unit to the taxpayers in this district. I do not believe the answer is to throw the Common Core out, but I do believe we can make improvements. Change is never popular, especially when so much change comes all at once and so many things are riding on it. I first believe we need to separate what we're talking about and stop lumping Common Core standards in with testing, implementation, and training. Having taught at 3 different universities, I can tell you there are many kids not ready for college academically. As a graduate student again currently, my health law program has classmates that cannot write as well as my junior can in high school, but yet they made it to graduate school. I believe the Common Core standards are good for kids, and those children that know no other way will someday understand things on a level that most of us have never experienced. I do not believe it is wrong to challenge kids. I further believe most kids with positive support at home and great teachers in the classroom will rise to the challenge. Kids all over the world today are experiencing this, and they are here to compete against our kids for spots in our universities and jobs in our marketplace. As a Board of Education member, I encourage all of you not to develop a personal agenda, to be certain you are representing all the voices in our district. Our focus should be on educating the public and stomping out misconceptions. We as a state PTA believe in Common Core standards. We do not agree in how they were implemented. We do not agree with over-testing and testing of special needs kids at every level, at a level they have never attained. We believe in a more staggered rollout and appropriate time and training for our teachers. As the largest child advocacy organization, we are in Albany fighting for all kids. Our state board has spent the majority of the last 2 years dealing with primarily Common Core. We just returned from a legislation and education conference where Common Core was our focus. We spoke to regents and senators and asked that they hear our voice. Free public education is mandated in our state constitution. Deciding to not follow the law, what does that teach our kids? When you don't like the rules, buck the system. As a Board of Education, if you decide to not comply with state education law, I would expect the state to at least investigate and there to be consequences to our district. Years ago in Scarsdale, they did not want to give state tests to their students, but the superintendent did back down as he agreed that it was the law, but he did not support giving kids test prep. Years ago in Long Island, Roosevelt School District was taken over by the state. If you do not think we have local control now, we will not then. They have the power to come in, replace their superintendent and our Board of Education, and replace them with their own people. Grades 3 through 8 tests do not affect promotion from grade to grade or a student's individual grades. But these new Common Core Regions tests, they will affect our kids. And if kids do not do well, they will not graduate, and those grades will permanently be a part of their transcript. I urge you to wonder about the voices you are not hearing. There are plenty of parents and teachers that are intimidated by the movement we saw last week. I hope that you hear my voice equally as you determine the future course for our school district. Thank you.
Can I go next? That's really hard to follow. I'm not a great public speaker as it is. Okay, my name is Trina Falchi. I was here last Monday also, and I listened to the many speeches that were given and heard the frustration and discouragement in everyone's voices. Like most people, I was moved by their stories, and I empathize with the numerous examples of problems that we've seen the past 2 years with the rollout of the Common Core. And while I deeply respect all that was said last week, I couldn't help but feel that there's another side to the story of Common Core, and it is for that reason that I'm here tonight. I am a special education teacher at an elementary school in a neighboring district. I also have 3 students in this district, grades 5, 6, and 8. Additionally, I was an ELA Common Core ambassador through BOCES, and through that have had to attend as well as put on numerous workshops on the Common Core. From all of these things, I feel I am fairly well acquainted with the Common Core standards and grade level expectations that our children are currently immersed in. And while I agree wholeheartedly that Common Core is that it's all been clumped into one term, it's not perfect, and it definitely had its issues with rollout and implementation. I want to say that I don't think it's all bad. First, we need to separate Common Core into different separate issues: APPR, testing, curriculum standards. Tonight, I'd like to talk about standards and testing. Last week, I got a sense that the opt-out movement would like to see the Common Core standards removed entirely from our state, because if the way that we did things isn't broken, don't fix it. There seemed to be a feeling of if it was good enough 20 years ago, it should be good enough 20 years from now. That was really scary for me to hear. If every society had the attitude that the status quo was always good enough, progress would never be made and societies would stagnate. If you look back just in the last 3 generations, the things that my mother learned in kindergarten aren't the same things that my son learned 5 years ago, because times change, needs change, humans change. Should my son learn nothing more in kindergarten than to write his name, recite the alphabet, and color in between the lines, simply because that's what was done when my mother went to school and she turned out well? Or can we strive for more because he might be capable of more and because a change in society calls for more? When trying to convince my 8th grader that he needed to take his 8th grade ELA state test this week, whether he liked it or not, and he really did not, I made a comment to him that taking the easiest path in life isn't always the best path to take. If all one ever strives for is mediocrity, then all one will ever be is mediocre. And please, I'm not saying that middle of the road is a bad thing, but we've somehow lost the pride and reward in challenging ourselves and each other to do better and become more than who we are. The Common Core was designed to raise the bar so that our future generations will keep our country competitive on a global level. Also, so that they will be ready for the challenges of college and their chosen career when they graduate. Those aren't bad things to want to give to our children, a global future and a solid academic foundation. Are there gaps in knowledge? Absolutely. We knew there would be before we started. And for some learners, like the special needs population that I serve, that gap became bigger with Common Core. But we don't know if this will level out over time until we give it time. And to give up now when we are just starting because it's too hard, it's truly an injustice to our future generations. This leads me to testing. The idea that we don't need any kind of standardized testing is preposterous. Testing ensures accountability. It ensures that teachers are teaching what is expected to be taught and that students are learning what they are expected to be learning. Testing informs instruction and programs. Could there be some changes made that would improve testing? Of course. Things like shorter tests, longer time frames in which to take those tests, provisions for special needs learner and ESL students would all help to improve the current system. But do we throw the baby out with the bathwater? Do we give up on the idea of a common set of academically challenging standards that will keep us globally competitive for generations to come simply because the tests were too long? Do we throw out testing altogether, eliminating any possibility of using data to inform instruction and the ability to keep the educational system accountable for what's being taught to our children just because we currently have an environment of test anxiety? Do we water down expectations for all so that everyone can achieve 4s? Or do we teach our children to be the best that they can be individually and continue to encourage and foster and develop their strengths, interests, and self-confidence in all the ways that make them who they are and make them special? There is no doubt that we have to work together to get this right and to do right by our kids. But what are we really teaching them if our solution is to walk away when things get tough? I'd like to say one last thing. And before I say it, I want to say, I think you're all fabulous. I think our administrators are fabulous. I think the board is fabulous. I really do. As a Board of Ed, though, we place our trust in you that you're going to represent all of us, that you're going to represent the whole community when making decisions for our school district. And if the numbers that I heard in the news today were accurate, approximately 20 to 25% of our testing population of students opted out of the state test. That number is high, but that means 75 to 80% of the kids still took the test. Although we cannot assume that all 80% are necessarily in agreement with every aspect of the testing system, those voices are worth hearing too. This issue of Common Core is dividing our school community and not for the better. We need to do something to stop this because the strength of our community is in our unity and our respect for each other. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Cutie. I am a New Hartford resident, a graduate of New Hartford, and a teacher of 21 years. I know I don't look that old. And in a neighboring district, which I won't say because if I do, you'll stop listening to me. I was here also last week, and I really wanted to speak, but felt if I did, I was going to be stoned or kicked out of the room. And I left with a very overwhelming sense of negativity for my profession. And that was very bothersome as a teacher. We, in our district, use some of the same exact programs you do in New Hartford. I teach 5th grade. There is no crying over math allowed in my room. It is good teaching at times. When a kid is frustrated, you teach them how to work through a problem. You don't allow a kid to get to that level in which they're taking Envisions tests for 3 hours. That's ludicrous. It's not good teaching. I think there are a lot of teachers in New Hartford who recognize that. And after talking to some of them after last week's meeting, I realized that that was not the overwhelming feeling of many teachers in this district that was conveyed. I've talked to Mr. Condro many times about curriculum in the past when my son was a student at Bradley, and always found him to be so willing to listen and adjust to change. And after talking to teachers in this district, they said nothing but positive things about the district's ability to listen to the path they've taken and adjusting and making changes. This is only the 2nd year. It's just like starting anything new. It needs time. And it takes 3 years, if you go way back to the beginning of ELA and math testing in 2003, 2005, we all were the same exact way. All of these emotions were there. We were all flipping out over the tests and said our kids couldn't do them. By year 3, our kids were acing them and doing extremely well. This is just another challenge. It's just another change. And as a teacher, it is not bad. We, as educators, should be disappointed and ashamed of ourselves for not wanting to learn new things, find better ways to do things, and change. That is what learning is. And as a professional, I was extremely insulted and I was disappointed to hear my profession talk in that negative tone, because I felt that that is our job. We are trying to teach children, we're trying to challenge them, and we are teaching them how to learn. Shame on us as adults for not wanting to learn. That is what we are supposed to do. I have nothing new to say about Common Core that none of these women have already said and stated, and I agree with every single one of their speeches. So I'm not going to continue to talk about that. But I felt as if you as a district have a numerous amount of outstanding teachers. And it was very disheartening to not feel like that was the community I lived in. So I walked away feeling very disheartened about that. And I was very glad that there were so many of us when we talked who feel the positivity and the challenges that are positive for our kids to face, and as fellow teachers and professionals. We appreciate the district. We appreciate the teachers in this district who put tremendous amount of hours in for our kids. But every time somebody said something last week, I just wanted to come back and say, there's a thing called good teaching, and it is your job to figure it out. That's all. Thank you.
I guess I would, if nobody else is going to go. I'm Megan Alt. I am a 3rd grade teacher at Hughes Elementary. Above all, I'm a parent of a 1st grader and a 3rd grader. I was part of a discussion, if that's okay to say, with my fellow PTA council members last evening. And I was not at the board meeting last week by choice. I guess I had a little bit of fear that my presence would be a misconception, that my opinion was that of the masses, and it is not. I've had discussions with some of you on the board, and with Mr. Nolan, Mr. Condro, my principal, Mr. Hyde. And I'm not here to say it's perfect, that there's roses and butterflies and bubbles flying all over my room, and it's great. We do have a lot of fun, though, you know, and I think Mrs. Luker came into my room and talked to my students. They had no idea who Mrs. Luker was. They didn't know really that she was coming, and she went around and asked them questions about how they felt about school and all these things. And she could speak better because I couldn't hear what they were saying, but she said it was pretty positive. But she didn't get the sense that they were stressed out and they were, you know, having meltdowns every night. And granted, I want to go back to the fact that I do teach 3rd grade. So these are the students that have had Common Core reading since 2nd grade and Common Core math since 1st grade, right, I think. So we're not seeing the gaps that the older grades, like my colleagues who are teaching 5th grade, 6th grade, even 4th, and above. So when I'm speaking just from my perspective in that particular grade level. But I did want to come speak. I just realized my back is not my best side.
Your butt is on
I do it on purpose.
Okay. Anyways, but I guess, you know, and I can't speak too much about last week because I wasn't here, so anything that I hear was hearsay. However, I did get a sense that our community, our school community, our community at large, has a perception that the majority of the teachers are feeling, in a negative way, are really at their wits' end. And I think that I speak in support of my colleagues who are, dealing with students who are struggling and who are stressed out. And I respect their struggles, and I know that they've reached out for support. And I can say, as a primary teacher, when we have needed support, and we go to our building administrators, Vince, Tina, we get nothing but an ear and support and action immediately. And I don't know if that's something that has necessarily come across to you, and has been, I hope it has, and how much that is appreciated. I can't even begin to imagine what we would do without these individuals, because they've listened, they've, answered questions, they take concerns, and then, and it's not, they don't wave a magic wand and make it happen like that. There's always a method to what they do. And it's always a very thoughtful, systematic, process that they use. But I guess I'm here just to give a voice to the teachers and perhaps let you know that, I certainly don't think it's all bad. And as a parent, I see things from my children and the number sense that comes from my first grader. Things that come out of her mouth are unbelievable. And it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the teacher she's had and what she's learning. And one other thing, and whoever thought we'd be, I love Bill Keeler, but whoever thought we'd be quoting Bill Keeler? I love him, I do, but this is great. Now this is the third time his name's been brought up. I did not hear that quote, but I do want to say, today having been the first day of the state test, yesterday afternoon at the end of the day, I had 3 students in my room opt out of 22. And, I had asked those students just to keep that, as a private, absolutely that's your family's decision. We're not really talking about, because I don't make a big deal of the state test. And honestly, the things that came out of some of the students' mouths, not the ones that were necessarily opting out, but the things they had heard their parents say broke my heart. And these are the kids that were opting in, but they're hearing these things. So I think it's our responsibility, and I said this to my PTA council colleagues, last night. I think it's our responsibility to our children, our students, our community, to come together in a unified way, in a positive way. We have to get through this. This isn't necessarily going anywhere, but we have to come together. Because I think it's dividing so many parties in our school community. And I don't think that has a positive effect on anybody, but especially the people that we're all here for, our kids. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. And I wanted to thank Vince and Tina once again. Holy cow. Can't even imagine what we would do without them. And that's it.
I just have a question I forgot to ask, Vince. Can you just tell me exactly the difference? Because I think what we talked about last night in council, there's a lot of things, like Megan said, that need to be, people need more educated about. A lot of people are making these decisions and really don't know the whole picture. And one of the things is what is the difference in testing hours between, just say, ELA now and ELA before Common Core testing?
I'll ask Alan to help me a little bit, because I don't have that in front of me, but I think they're similar.
They're
very similar.
10 minutes.
Do you have?
Yeah, I think
It
it's
used to
about
be-
a 10, maybe, yeah, it's about a 10-minute.
It used to be
Okay.
60 minutes, now it's 70.
But most of my teachers, the teachers today that I spoke with, actually, many of those classrooms did finish a little bit early. So they were allowed to finish that testing window before that 90 minutes.
My daughter finished 20 minutes.
Well, they said that the test typically takes 50 minutes to an hour, and they schedule an hour and a half for,
Should accommodate students that are going to read slower or take longer.
right.
So basically, it's a very minimal difference for each. You're talking about overall, the whole ELAs are just a very, about 10-minute difference. Is that what you're saying? or each day?
For third and fourth, it used to be 60, now it's 70. For fifth,
Each day?
each
Each day is about 10
70,
minutes
yeah, each day.
longer. Okay.
And fifth grade was 90 minutes today, and there'll be 90 minutes for the next 2 days.
Okay, and, you know, and again, some of these numbers of the people opting out are, I think, a little bit skewed because they are feeling pressure to opt out. They're not necessarily, some of them don't know anything about the Common Core. So, you know, when, I forget if it was Trina, I think that you mentioned the numbers, you know, I just think that you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Because not, I think there's a lot of misinformation around, out there, so. And pressure.
Would anyone else like to speak? I'd just like to reiterate something that John said. I applaud all of you as parents and as educators for being here. It's great to see parental involvement and have us discuss something besides extracurricular activities. And I agree, you know, we will get through this. We are in the Hartford.
Kim, can I address this? I'm very glad that you came and spoke this evening. I truly am. Your positive comments, so eloquently put, told us a lot about you and your children, our students, and I want to thank each and every one of you.
Ladies, just ladies, because the only gentleman in the group was doing what I do, just shaking his head. I want to thank y'all for being here. It's wonderful. I want to tell you that in the year that I've been on the board now, not even a year, about 8 months, I assure you that this board has grit, Pam. I assure you that any time we have a lot of debate, but it's because we all got grit. And any time the teachers group or anyone has come before us to present what was going on, the last question that one of us always asks is, what else do you need? What else do you need to get the job done? Okay? The answer has been time, really, is what the answer has been. And so I just don't, the one thing that I heard over and over is that somebody was giving up. Somebody was throwing a baby out the bathroom. I assure you, this board is not doing that. That everything that this board and the administration, and absolutely what Bob and Vince and and Alan and all the principals, the whole, Mary, everybody has done, has been with the teachers to make it as painless as possible on what everybody agrees is a bad rollout. But at the end of the day, nobody's talking about giving up. Nobody's talking about pulling back from the New Hartford approach of making it work. All right? I think the message that was sent to the board last week was, and it's my perspective too, is very similar to the PTA, Rachel. We've got to do some lobbying, all right, to affect what we can affect outside, which is the implementation part of this thing, all right? And so that's where, but as far as what's going on here in New Hartford, I see nobody on this board that is not committed fully to the teachers, especially to the students, and to the families in New Hartford. So anyway, I just want to let that out, and thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. And can I say one thing too? I also applaud you guys, and I know I was not at the meeting last week, unfortunately, but I did certainly hear about it and hear lots of phone calls last week. And I know it was difficult, and I know the feeling is that everybody felt the same way as last week, and I know that you guys sort of bucked the trend, and you weren't bystanders, and I really appreciate that. You came and you told us how you felt, and you didn't let anybody pressure you, and I really personally appreciate that.
Thank you all, I really appreciate it. Okay, we move on with recognition of visitors and delegations and a text presentation by CJ.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take a little while tonight.
Yeah, if you all want to, you're more than welcome to stay, but if you all want to leave, you're more than welcome. We won't.
I got most people leave.
Yeah, most people.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I know when they remember, I know when they came out yesterday, okay? So let's just remember that.
He's been ready for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
No,
that was
poor
it.
CJ.
Oh, the last one was a bit long. What's that? Everybody in? All right. Well, thank you very much for staying and wanting to hear my presentation. Tonight I'd like to talk to you a little bit about where we've come this year in the IT department and where we're going. As you know, our mission in the IT department is to execute the technology-related 4 goals. The goals that you set for the technology within our district. To support our faculty, staff, and students. That's, to me, our major goal. Address technology-related district needs. To investigate and implement new technologies to improve teaching and the student learning experience. And that's a pretty bold statement because there's so much that goes on and so many new technologies that are coming out rapidly. Sometimes it takes some time to figure out which ones are going to work and which ones aren't. Evaluate potential improvements and review prior recommendations. Most of what our IT department is doing right now was previously planned by the IT department's 5-year plan. And we're following that through with some minor changes. As you know, nothing is set in stone, and as we move forward, things change. So as they change, we need to roll with those changes and find out what's going to work best for the district. Also to create and enforce policies and procedures. Now, right now, our staffing, I wanted to go over this a little bit with the board so you understand what our staffing needs are and where we stand with staffing right now. I am the MIS director, of course. We do have a network administrator who is new that we brought in. A telecom specialist, which is a position that needs to be filled. The loss of Mr. Rankins cannot be measured. I can't convey what our department has gone through and how we've suffered as a department because of it. He can never be replaced. But hopefully we can find someone to fill that position and who can also do the job that the rest of us are doing. We have 2 part-time RIF technicians that come in during the week, a .6 and a .4. And they do a great job. They've been here for a number of years. They take great pride in working here at New Hartford. They love it here. And then we have an integration specialist who is part of New Hartford. He's a New Hartford employee, and he's half-time with us and a teacher half-time. I can speak on behalf of my department and those people that are coming from outside the district. We take great pride in this district, and we work very hard for this district. Our goal and our mission is the success of our teachers and students and to supply the support that they need. So where I think we come from is not as important as the job that we do while we're here. We also have new positions of a data warehousing specialist, and her major role is to work with the student information system and pull the data from that information system for the New York State reporting. Mr. Condro can attest, the state reports are immense, and the amount of data that needs to be pulled from those systems is huge. And then we also have a data entry clerk that assists her. So right now, we're not doing too bad. Other than the empty position right now that needs to be filled, we actually do have quite a bit of staffing. So we're doing okay. Not great. It does get difficult at times when we're implementing new projects and we're running a little short sometimes. But we're keeping our heads above water. We're doing okay. We're doing okay. Achieving our goals. Our board goals for this year were new laptop computers for teachers. And that's what we've done. We've begun rolling them out. This week we'll be finishing with K2. And the only reason that we had to adjust this schedule a little bit was because of state testing. We didn't realize, oops, 3 through 6 we're doing state testing this week. We can't be burdening those teachers with giving them new equipment right now. Let's let them get through this week. We'll provide those laptop computers to them next week. So we'll be doing K2 this week and then 3-6 next week. The junior high and senior high have their equipment already. We've heard a lot of positive responses from teachers, even teachers that were somewhat against it because we went from Mac to PC. They're saying, wow, it's not that much different. Okay, I can work with this. And the other teachers are saying very positive things as well, like our software works flawlessly. The smartphone stays up, everything works, this is great. So I know that there are some people that love Mac, and I think Macintosh is a phenomenal piece of equipment. But this is serving our needs, and it's doing a very good job. We put new smart boards up in the math departments. We added document cameras for junior and senior high classrooms in the library and media centers. We piloted the elementary grades in 4 to 6 to see if those teachers were in fact going to use them. I gave them to some teachers and said, what is it? Why do I need it? And I said, well, really, it's a high-tech overhead projector. You know, I wanted you to use it to see what you think. And some teachers said, yeah, I use it, it's fantastic. And other teachers said, well, I really haven't found a use for it. So it may be a little bit of a hit and miss in asking the teacher if they would like one or not, and if they think that they will use it, rather than blanket purchase for the entire district and say, here you go, and have it sit in a corner. I'd rather know whether the teacher is actually going to use the piece of equipment before we move forward. We got new computers for the Project Lead the Way STEM lab here at the high school. And what was really neat is when we did that, I had a request from one of the teachers on a remote control software that they could actually view the student's screen, take control of all of the students' computers at once, do demonstrations on them, or shut the screens down completely and say, hey, look up here. It has been an overwhelming success. The amount of teachers I've had that have requested that from me is unbelievable. I had one teacher who's getting ready to retire in a couple years, and he said, where was this 10 years ago when I needed it? I don't even use my projector anymore because I tell the kids, hey, stop, look at your screen, watch what I'm doing. And they do their demonstration, and the kids are sitting right there looking at their computer monitor, and they see exactly what is happening, and then can follow along, rather than stopping and turning and looking at a projector or looking all around the room or whatever. So it's been an overwhelming success, and I'm looking at adding it to all the labs as well. So this way, when teachers are in the labs, they can use that software for instruction with their students. We added new computers for the home and career classrooms. We got the new language lab, of course, for the junior high school. And then our biggie, we virtualized our servers, which added reliability, management, backup, recovery, and huge cost savings. As a matter of fact, last week we had one of our older servers just quit on us up at Hughes. And within a day, we were able to switch all of those people over onto the new servers and get them back up and running. Yes, granted, some of the software is missing for those students right now because it was on the old server and we have to try to get it onto the new servers. But it was rapid. It was easier than trying to replace that server, go out, make a purchase, put it in, and try to set that all up. It only took a few hours to get a new server up and running. It just took time to transfer everybody's files and data and everything over to that new server.
I thought all the servers were in one place.
They are. Well, they are. What we hadn't moved yet was office staff. Office staff hasn't been moved because we can't really move things until they're on break. And this was initially supposed to happen in Christmas break, but due to illnesses and things, we couldn't do it at Christmas break. Then it was supposed to happen over the next break, and that's when our tragedy struck. So now we're shooting for April break in a week to get everybody finally moved over. But some of the older softwares that we have that the kids do use in the labs, in the Mac labs, are still on those old servers. And we may have to work with that for the rest of the year for those students until we can get the software for our Windows version and get it up and running. But other than that, everything else is moved over. All the students and teachers are moved over. Our website's been doing great. We've tried to make improvements. We've been adding things to it. People are using it. I've had very positive responses. We are reviewing the need for a district webmaster, which would be really nice, somebody who could constantly be putting information up. But I've also had an overwhelming amount of PTA staff who have requested to come in for training to take over different sections for family, or I'm sorry, not for family, but for community members to say, hey, we want to do this for our PTA. And I said, by all means, come on in, I'll train you, and you put stuff up for them. So this has been very positive as well. This has been very positive. Research and review innovative uses of technology in education. We implemented SNAP this year, which is district-wide media services. Our tape library, our VHS tape library, you might be able to see some dust growing on it because teachers are so happy that they can now show videos in their classrooms just by using SNAP. And what's really nice about it is that all of the students also have complete access to this from home, from anywhere. So encyclopedias, movies, all kinds of great stuff, they have full access to, all teachers and all students throughout the district. We've been working very closely with the library media specialists to make sure that we're working together and providing the needs of the teachers. We've also done some experimentation with blended learning and using a learning management system called Brain Hunt. We've got our 6th grade teachers now working with it, and it has been a great success with them. We've actually had kids go to other teachers and say, well, I know I was sick yesterday, couldn't you just put it on Brain Honey so I can go get my assignment? And the teacher said, well, I don't use Brain Honey, so I'm sorry, but we can't do that. But it has been a great success, and the teachers, I'd love to have them come in sometime and talk with you on their successes with using the learning management system. It's been really great. Of course, new product review and testing. We've checked out some new media projectors, which will save the district quite a bit of money in bulb replacement. They're great projectors, and the bulbs are about 1/3 of the price of what they are now. We're looking at a new smart type technology rather than the smart boards that we have now. Epson has come out with a new system called the Bright Lake system, and what it does is it doesn't actually use the board, it uses the pen, and it projects down, and whatever the teacher writes with will work just like a smart board. And Smart has now licensed their software to Epson, so it's going to work identical to the smart board without the cost of the smart board itself. It's simply the projector. We've also been looking at tablet and netbooks and Chromebook computers. The Chromebooks are great. They're inexpensive. They work fantastic because we are so ingrained in Google Apps and Spartan apps that it would be a great tool to use. Now, the only minus to it is that we have to have ubiquitous wireless. We need wireless throughout the district in order for them to work. So it's one of those things that we're building that foundation and we're growing. And as soon as we get all that in place, then we can move forward with some of these newer technologies. And again, with the mobile device and tablet initiatives, and management and instruction, these all stem on ubiquitous wireless. So moving forward, what are our future plans coming up for this summer and for next year? Increasing our inter-network bandwidth, the bandwidth between schools. We're going to go from 100 megabytes to 1 gigabyte in between our schools, which will speed things up, considering now we're putting our data center here. We're going to have one centralized data center, and this will speed up everything in between all the schools. Our infrastructure upgrades. Part of this speeding up of bandwidth in between, we're going to have to add some new equipment to handle these increased speeds. Also, we'll have to do a lot more research and look into upgrading majority of our switches so that we can add in the new functionality of our wireless networking, our possible security systems, telephone systems, IP cameras and such. So these are all things that we're looking at for the future. Of course, I've mentioned a few times, wireless throughout the district. We're also reviewing our student information systems. Presently, we use Infinite Campus, which has done a great job for us so far. But there are other packages out there that majority of the districts in New York State have gone to. There's only a handful still using Infinite Campus, and it's getting more difficult to find support for those. We are supported by Eastern Suffolk BOCES, and they've been great. They do a fantastic job. But at the same time, with times changing, it's time to maybe review this and take a look at something that may suit us better. We'd like to put new computers in the PLTW STEM labs in the junior high. We put them in the senior high, and they're working fantastic. The junior high, the reason that we're moving this way is that the Project Lead the Way software, if you're familiar with the STEM software that they use, is extremely resource intensive. It takes a lot of resources. And those computers need to be very powerful in order to run that 3D solid modeling software and those things. So we're looking at upgrading those. Now, those computers that they have will be repurposed because they're still great computers and they can be used in other classrooms. So those will all be repurposed to other places. But as far as the PLTW STEM labs, we do need to upgrade those. Interactive whiteboards for the libraries and reading rooms. The librarians have expressed a great interest in having whiteboards put in here. And I thought this would be a great place to pilot those new EBSIDs because they're very small, they're very compact. For instance, we were talking about just removing a couple of those bookshelves there and placing it right there. That way the kids could come right in here. They can, it would be available to any teacher or to any librarians to use. And the reading rooms as well. The reading teacher said it would be such an advantage to have the child be able to go up to the board and draw the letter or touch the letter. We looked at iPads. That would be a great alternative as well. But again, then we get into the wireless issue. So this would be something that would work for them without going into that area right away. Replacement of some classroom clusters. We're looking at replacing, we have very, very old EMAC computers that don't even get used. I have numerous teachers that say, take it out. I want the space in my classroom. They're just taking up a lot of space, and we don't really use them. They cannot be upgraded. They're just too old. We can't upgrade the operating system. They don't work with our new infrastructure. We can't connect it to our new infrastructure. So these are all things that we have to take into account. So we're looking at replacing those classroom cluster computers. And teachers are very excited about that. They feel that they would definitely use them in their classrooms if they were upgraded. Again, the remote control software for the computer labs that I spoke about, I would like to put that into the computer labs for when teachers go in there and they're giving a class in that lab, that they would have that remote control software. It's very inexpensive and it's super for what it does. We're upgrading our special education classroom clusters. That's where we're repurposing the computers that we're getting back from the teachers. When we're giving them their laptops, we're taking their computers back and then we're repurposing them into the special ed rooms. The majority of the special education areas have those EMAC computers. And it's very frustrating for the kids when they can't use those computers. So, replacing the older laptop computers in the science department. Right now, the laptop computers in the science department don't connect properly with some of the probes and things. So what we'd like to do is upgrade those laptop computers, take the laptop computers from there, and then redistribute them throughout the district. Because the laptops that are in the science department can be used for surfing the web or creating Word documents or spreadsheets, things like that. But they're not working very well as far as scientific computers. Replacement of non-compatible computers and equipment, and those are some of those EMACs that I was talking about that aren't compatible with our new system. Laptop computers for the high school library to replace old desktop computers. They have computers, PC computers that sit in the back corner of the library, and they're not used at all. None of the students use them. They're very old. So I had talked to the librarian and worked with them, and they said, no, PC laptops would be fantastic. We could give them to students. Students could take them, sit down at a table together in a group, and work on a computer, rather than having to just go sit at a computer station. Again, new presentation projectors to replace the old projectors. Some of our projectors are quite old. I can show you a big stack that we have down in our recycle pile of dead projectors. And what we looked at is we looked at some of these new projectors that are really, really bright, and the bulbs are very, very inexpensive in comparison. So they would provide a lower total cost of ownership, and they're lower power consumption as well. Printer replacements throughout the district. We have a number of printers that are very old. The toner is getting harder and harder to come by. So the time to possibly replace quite a few of these older printers. And that's about it. I wanted to make it short and sweet because I know that you guys have a long agenda, and last week was a little rough. So do you have any questions? Yes.
And I called Mr. Ambrose prior, I was out away this past weekend, and I called him for this, so I could study it, and we talked a little bit about staffing. You said you were gonna address the staffing, which you did. And I can see where you say you have 5.9 versus 5.4. How many of these, if you could go back to your slide on that, please?
Sure.
How many of those people are actually on campus? How many are hands-on people who go to buildings that can help teachers with problems?
Let's see. Oh. Really, we have our 2 technicians and myself. We have our 2 part-time technicians, which are .6 and .4. We have one here every day except Wednesday. So on Wednesdays, it's a little rough. Our network admin, he also, I mean, right now, we all pick up the ball and run with it. Whoever needs to go, we go.
So that's one person you have here.
That's it.
And we know Mr. Rankin worked way beyond.
He worked 12-hour days,
Yes.
every day. And I used to yell at him about it and
I
say,
know
you
you
need
said
to
you
go
can't
home.
replace him, but you're gonna put somebody in that chair,
Yes,
and they should not be working 12-hour days.
I agree.
And as Mr. Flemmer says, we always ask, what do you need? We've had people here, Mr. Tallman, I don't know if he's here, so I'm walking the room. I don't think he was ever replaced. Do you need more staff for hands-on? Somebody's got a problem with miles, not just on a Wednesday, but on a Monday or a Thursday or Friday. Do you need more staffing to help you? Because in your future plans, it doesn't mention more staff.
Right, at this time. It's something that we were discussing and we were working through on whether, and to be honest, yes, I could use one more technician, one full-time technician, someone who would be here with boots on the ground.
There's also Mr. Amonte was also.
Well, Mr. Amonte is an integration specialist, part-time. He doesn't fix computers, he doesn't help with any troubleshooting or anything.
But he had more hours prior to, he was cut down to half-time, half teaching, half specialist.
Yes, that's what he does. Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as integration specialists, though, his job isn't to provide service to teachers, it's more to assist in training and provide that type of assistance. I won't say that he doesn't assist in needs. If a teacher is having a problem with a computer or a piece of software, he'll go and help them through that. But as far as from a technical side, no, Mr. Monty doesn't really do that. He doesn't have anything to do with repairs. So if a printer goes down, a projector goes out, a smart board isn't working, that's where we have the technicians. And right now, we basically have one technician.
Do you also, like, in my office, my IT department's in Syracuse, if I have a problem with my computer, they remote in my computer and they take control of it.
Right, we try to do that as often as we can. Most, I would say probably 70% of the time, it's a physical issue though. There's a paper jam, so we'll try to walk them through it, or there's something wrong with their smartboard, just isn't working. Maybe their projector isn't turning on, they're not getting sound from their speakers. We can remote in to see if they have their sound turned on. But other than that, if that's not the issue, somebody has to go there.
So you still need the boots.
Right, the boots on the ground, so to speak. Yes, definitely.
Is there a lot in the queue that's not getting done?
Right now, yeah. To be honest with you.
They send tickets, is that what it's?
Yeah, tickets. Yeah, we do have quite a few right now.
What's the usual turnaround time?
We try to get them done in a week. We try to get it done.
So a teacher might have their smartboard down?
No, that's where every day I look at that and I set priority. If a teacher's smartboard is out, if a student can't log in, a teacher can't log in, that's priority one, because that's what they need to teach. If your printer isn't working, you have other printers throughout the district that you can print to. That's a lower priority. I don't rush out because the teacher says, I can't print in my classroom. Well, can you print to the copy machine? Yes. Can you print next door? Yes. We will get you as soon as we possibly can. But if a teacher calls me and says, my smartboard's not working, we send a tech there as soon as we can, as soon as they're available. Yes.
CJ, I know on the long-range planning facilities plan, we had servers and wireless
Yes.
and all that.
Yes.
Do we have any idea of what the implementation is at? Maybe it's a question for Mary, 2 to 3 years?
Ms. Mandel, the long-range plan.
3 depending on how the governor rolls money to us. Didn't work.
You always have
here.
that money.
Sorry. We're trying though, we're lobbying for that too, right? Everybody is here.
Guys, I'm gonna jump ahead. This is a question I had on the budget. And I'm sorry for rifling through. I was making sure I didn't miss it. I don't see, you know, like Mary, an IT, you know what I mean, a broken out IT. It's kind of, looks like it's in a lot of subcategories.
Right, it's built within the budget, much of which is in BOCES, because as you know, we purchase our computers and a lot of our computer technology through BOCES to maximize our aid, which we've talked about years ago. We do get back, you know, 68% aid for the purchase of the technology through BOCES. So that's a big part of the line item. Also, it's in the instructional codes.
Okay, it is in the instructional code.
Yeah, so the salaries are in the instructional,
Okay.
2110 area.
Okay.
And I say instructional code, but they're not instructional salaries.
Gotcha.
So throughout BOCES, CJ is through the BOCES code, throughout instructional code, primarily, that is where.
Have you got a feel for what's happening with the budget year over year? What is it?
We do, actually, a few years back, because of all
With
the
IT, I'm talking
significant
about,
costs,
the IT
right,
part.
specifically with IT, that is one area that we do provide monies in the budget, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be able to buy everything that CJ went through, and, but we did have to cut back in that area, because we were cut $15 million in aid, basically, overall, if you add all of the aid figures.
Have you got an idea how much we cut back?
So I'm not sure exactly how much we cut back. We were buying, I think 6 or 7 years ago, before the economy crashed, about $500,000 worth of equipment every year.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm just talking about the year over year, last year to this year. Last year's budget versus this year's
We didn't
budget.
cut from last year.
Okay,
to this
so
year. We have been providing approximately $100,000, at least $100,000 of technology in the budget year to year. So I haven't increased the budget for technology. We increased for safety and all those other areas, but we've held the status quo. So we were able to buy all the laptops, as CJ said. So it's a minimum of $100,000 that we had in the budget. But at the end of the year, sometimes, if we, like we had talked about, sometimes we do take advantage of maximizing our aid for BOCES if we do have some monies where we can actually fulfill the needs of the long-range, long-term technology committee, long-range technology committee plan. That's how we purchase the computers at the end of the year and obtain the BOCES aid the next year, which is really a month later.
So
Okay.
what I'm hearing is, CJ, you're getting enough money for the hardware, and what I'm hearing is, and what Paul talked about is it's a people resource issue that you, boots on the ground. And is that
Since you took over, do you still have the same amount of staff?
Yes.
Or more?
I believe so, yeah.
You have more?
Yes. Yeah, to a certain extent, yes.
Okay.
I think I saw 5.9 compared to 5.4.
5.4.
So you have more staff.
Right.
He's saying they're not on campus. You only
Well,
have
the
0.6
staffing
and
is a little different.
6.4 is a full-time equivalent, which means you had somebody here every day. You've indicated though one day each year. Is that
Right.
Well, we have 5.9 staff members compared to 5.4 since he took over.
What CJ I think means is they're not in Hartford, they're not paid out of the Hartford payroll, they're paid out of BOCES payroll. I think that's what you're referring to, that they're not here, they're here.
No,
Colleen
no.
is here.
No, that's not, no.
She comes
There are
here.
more
She
staff
is-
members in that
Right.
department than there were.
But
Right,
he's
and
the
that's
looking
what
for
they're-
More staff members to go out and
No,
fix
that's what you said.
Right, no, I agree with people, but I'm just saying, we have
He
more
means
staff.
only one person here.
But if all this technology's not getting
One
fixed
per day.
on time for a week.
I agree, it's gotta be ramped up to get to that level. So, with a 1.5% budget increase and stated cuts, it's not easy to get to where it needs to go. And we're getting there gradually.
I mean, I guess, and then just to kind of go on Paul, I guess I'm getting a little uncomfortable feeling that we're not communicating before the budget's put out, or this would have been put to rest.
We communicate every week.
Mhm.
Yeah?
We discussed
Okay,
this.
so you're cool with as things are regarding staffing and hardware?
Staffing, once we fill the telecom specialist position, it will get much better, yes.
So you're cool with it?
whoever you fill is not gonna work 12 hours like Mr. Rankins did, you're not gonna fill it.
Sure.
You're gonna, to fill his
And if
position,
she
you
has
probably need
Right.
additional
1 point
staff,
something.
we will deal with it. This
I
is
think that, right,
administrative.
right.
We will deal with it.
Right.
We're weekly, so I think
They
he's
talk-
indicating that staffing level right now is difficult because he has somebody with a vacant position.
And I think if the cube got
Don't be saying that he's not getting the new, the staff members. We always have ability to go to BOCES, need an additional half-time person. If someone is working 12 hours, we need to get 1.5 people, and we will address that.
Is that part of your contingency?
Sure.
All right.
Oh, most definitely. That is one of the advantages of being part of the BOCES consortium, is that if I'm drowning, I can yell to them for life preserver and they'll throw it to me. As it stands right now, I'm looking at possibly, they have talked to me about sending someone over who would be boots on the ground, at no cost to the district, just who are college graduates for somewhat of, I won't say a training program, but they come in and they work with us and they learn with us, but they're hands-on.
Yeah.
So I need to give them a call back and say, sure, yeah, send them by.
Okay, because we just want to make sure, because, we want to make sure, because, the budget, and these guys have done what I can say is a good job, putting together a budget that really maintains spending down, but without affecting the education piece of the pie, and that's you. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that you're getting what you need to get the job done like Paul is,
Exactly, yes.
And-
No,
and you are.
We've been great, yeah. Like I said, losing Ivan has been really, I can't express what it's been like. But we're getting there. And with the new systems that we're implementing, once everything is done and in place, it's gonna get much better. It'll get a lot lighter and we'll have more time to take care of these smaller problems and get these issues corrected. A lot of our issues right now is that the equipment is old and that we're replacing it and working very closely with Mary to get that.
But
new
maintenance should
equipment
go
in there.
down as you replace the old equipment.
Exactly, so right, the maintenance is gonna drop immensely once we get that equipment in.
And you got BOCES there to fill a gap in the interim period.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, yes.
CJ, thank you very much.
Yes.
We appreciate you being here. And I know that you and Bob work weekly, we do, so thank you for all you do for the district.
Thank you.
Item number 4, and you still all want to go ahead.
We're on the first page.
Thank you all.
Thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Page 3, letter C, coaches. Mrs. Sags, name, because her daughter was trying out. Page 3, C, coaches. 5-0. Did she make the team?
She did.
So now you can vote? She
Yeah,
can change
no.
the vote.
You can leave it as
Change my vote to favor of that
Yeah.
notion.
Okay, I got it, thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Catch. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, did I, I'm sorry, who are moving in? Okay.
Um, 4 passes 6-0. Item 5 is renewal correspondence and communications.
Yes, I have one item for correspondence and communications, and it gives me great pleasure to announce that we received a safety excellence award from the International. We received titanium with honors. It's the first time ever we've received this.
All right.
And this is safety efforts, which I know it's been an effort on this part last year, and we put resources in the 13-14 budget, and I can say those resources well received, and we received a $500 award.
Hey.
So I'd like to congratulate Mary Mandel, Dr. Levitino, if he's still here.
He couldn't have it, man.
You want to take a picture? So I'm going to ask the board president, along with Mary and myself, to take a picture. Vincent, we'll get this up on our website. You gotta get a picture.
You
need to take a picture with Andy. You need to take a picture with Andy.
I know.
I like the books for Rebecca. Congratulations. It's great news. And, how you gonna spend $500?
I know, there is something. I wouldn't have let them leave if they were in the picture.
You tilt it a little towards me so it's clear. Now
Just stand on your tippy toes, Mary.
it's holding the meal. Congratulations again.
Good job, Mary.
Fantastic job.
They really
Bob,
spent
you're
a lot
putting
of
something
time.
up on the website, right?
Great.
Yeah. Andrea has a family wedding he has to go to,
Oh.
so next week I think we'll take a picture with.
Just Photoshop him in.
Mary, please extend that to Andy and to Keith.
Yeah.
Thank you. That concludes everything.
Okay, thank you.
Item these to Keisha.
Yeah, actually.
Item 6 is board committee reports. Anybody? Mary? I know, we don't have any. Okay.
Wow, what are you trying to do this?
You wanna make
We don't
one
get
up?
enough?
I know. 7, old business. A, second reading of policy and regulations.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure, discuss it.
Going to page 2, 3, 0, 11, 11, 12, and 13, we have director of athletics, athletic coordinator, point identical. Is that to cover the, we have 12 and 13.
3011.12 and .13. 7 the last part of the second.
I'm looking at the,
These are the actual policy.
yeah, I know. They're basically the same, and I'm wondering, do we have both of those in there? Because at one time, Todd was a director of athletics, and now we have a.
I just recently approved 3011.13. We're
Right.
asking you to keep 3011.2 for future utilization.
So if we go, whichever way we go, we'll cut.
Oh, that's, I was gonna ask the same question. I didn't understand either. Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Any other discussions on this? Okay, thank you. Item 8, new business. A, personnel. 1, appointment, substitute teacher list.
It is recommended that the following be appointed to the per diem substitute teacher list. Sherry Coleman, certified in elementary education, special education, and school district administrator.
Motion. Thank you, Lisa. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Fred. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item A passes 6-0. B, tenure.
It is recommended the following be granted tenure effective September 1, 2014. Mrs. Gripa, do I read them individually?
Oops, sorry.
Mrs. Gripa, do I read them individually?
You don't have to.
Okay, just, all right.
They're already presented as a group.
Okay, thank you. Teresa Kennedy, music. Thomas Kroll, science. Michelle Morris, elementary. Scott Morris, elementary. Greg Sapowski, technology. Katie Sullivan, art.
Thank you, Beth. Second.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Discussion?
Can I just say, the way they were given was just excellent. Everything was uniform and clear and much better than they were given a couple years ago. And I thank the efforts of the principals and the administration teachers to do that, because it was very, very easy.
I love the back-to-back.
You know, it was just very good. Compared to what it was before, it was excellent. Yes. Yes, it was excellent.
And we were given
Yep.
time to look.
Exactly, exactly. It's all very well done. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? B passes 6-0. C, master teacher.
It is recommended that the following teachers be granted master teacher status effective September 1, 2014. Catherine Bolos, elementary. Allison Grace, elementary. Jessica Lewis, ESL. Katie Sullivan, art. Amy Tallman, library media specialist.
Thank you, Beth. Second.
Second.
Lisa, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? C passes 6-0. 8D, coach.
It is recommended that Jessica Rice be appointed to the position of modified girls lacrosse head coach for the spring 2014 sports season.
Thank you, Beth. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ed. Discussion?
I just have one question, because now I actually see she expired 5/14. Right?
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? D passes 6-0. Okay, B, Committee on Preschool Special
I was good.
Education.
Well, I wasn't.
The recommendations from the Committee on Preschool Special Education's meetings of March 7th and March 20th of 2014 are presented for approval.
Move.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Committee passes 6-0. C, Committee on Special Education.
The recommendations from the Committee on Special Education's meetings of March 12th, March 13th, March 18th, and March 20th of 2014 are presented for approval.
Move.
Thank you, Paul. Second. Was that Ed?
Yes.
Oh, Ed, thank you. Lisa, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? C passes 6-0. D, 504 Committee.
The recommendations from the 504 Committee's meetings of March 12th, March 18th, and March 20th of 2014 are presented for approval.
Motion?
Moved.
Was it Paul and Lisa? Okay, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? D passes 6-0. E, 2014-2015 presentation, budget presentation.
It is recommended that the budget for the 2014-2015 school year be adopted in the amount of $48,476,646.
Motion? Beth, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Ed, I'm sorry, Ed. Mary, do you want to do a brief discussion on this, or?
Just give a brief recap, for those that haven't seen the details of the budget. The proposed spending increase is a 1.5% increase over the 13-14 budget. It includes, the total budget dollar increase is $739,899. It is comprised of several significant factors of the budget, which consist of instructional educational support salaries and health insurance, which is the majority of the increase. And that the increase is low as a result of 10 retirements that we received. So we were able to recognize some of the savings there with the new replacements, having a slightly lower salary. Our health insurance rates have also come in very well, so well below the national average as a result of working as a team with the group to keep those low. Other mandated New York State retirement system benefit increases we have again this year. We have increased spending in our BOCES shared services program, but again, that's to maximize the state aid from BOCES for purchases such as technology, printing of the modules and things such as that. So we are trying to, although we are required to spend some money on items, some mandated items, we are trying to utilize those expenditures in areas where we can benefit by obtaining some aid revenue. Also, educational supplies and equipment, we continue to provide funding for the requests that have been made by the instructional staff and non-instructional staff. So we have continued to support the educational program in this district based on instructional requests in that area. Our debt service has decreased as a result of the district refunding of bonds and some retirement of debt. So all of those significant factors make up the just under $740,000 or 1.5% increase. The revenue side, as you saw, we did receive a slight increase in state aid as a result of the new budget that was adopted. When we developed this budget, all of that aid was incorporated into our plans. Unfortunately, it would have been nice to have the full gap elimination adjustment restored or eliminated, I should say. Unfortunately, we still have over $1 million gap in that area, but we'll continue to lobby to have that go away. And it's based on the wealth, obviously, so, some other local schools getting millions.
Yeah.
So we just need to continue to lobby in that area.
So that was already, I mean, that decision was just made, right?
Yes.
And we had built in that approximate amount into
Yes.
the budget?
And that's what we talked about, at our last budget meeting.
Okay.
And we were hoping for more.
Right. But that's
what we had
what
budgeted was what we,
Yeah.
right, and that crystal ball, all of that.
Yeah.
So as a result.
Currently at $1,235,000 for gap elimination adjustment. We were at 1.464 for gap elimination, $1,461,000. The state reduced the gap elimination adjustment statewide by about a third. If we received a third back on our gap elimination adjustment, we would have received over $500,000.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can see that disparity that takes place. They keep saying they're going to try to eliminate the gap elimination adjustment over 2 years, 3 years, stand to gain some additional resources if that happens. But what seems to be happening is we're coming out with new initiatives, and we're still not fully funding the 12 initiatives.
Imagine that.
So advocacy is important.
Okay.
I've said it at the PTA. I've been to all of them probably 4 or 5 times in the last month. Mary's advocated, and the board has advocated, and then I sent a letter into our legislators. So when you see our legislators, please advocate. I know several of you attended the Tri-County School Board Institute as well.
Is there also this year kind of that pot of money that's left for the legislators to say, oh, here, you get
And ask for something else.
Yeah.
Because didn't last year we lobbied and got,
No, those 2 years, 2 years ago. Lobby.
Right, absolutely.
I will as well.
So it interprets into a 1.9% tax increase, and as you can see, the effect on, homeowner, $28 per year estimate for an enhanced start, and $41 per year for a home assessed at $100,000 for the basic start. So.
What was that, how much?
It's $41 per year for a basic start, for a home assessed at approximately $100,000.
Okay, all those in favor?
I've got some, I'm sorry, I got some questions regarding the budget. Does the budget include any increased staffing?
Yes. It was in the executive summary.
Executive summary of the?
Of the budget, your budget book?
Okay, refresh my memory, please.
I think there was one full-time.
In essence, it was flat. It represents, I want to make sure I get the specific teaching position that it represents.
Includes an increased .8 FTE position through BOCES for elementary math academic intervention services.
Okay.
It also redirects resources from the retired 1.0 FTE special education teacher to fund an additional 1.0 FTE for elementary AIS services. So there's an additional 1.8 FTE AIS services. One of them is being redistributed from the special education center. And we also reduced one full-time equivalent through plan nutrition.
Okay.
Mary, I'm not sure what that position was in the instruction.
That was the position.
Okay. That's enough.
So realistically, it's a net zero, we just redirect that.
All right, great, thanks, Dave. Yeah.
And it's, that's to assist with some of the additional AIS services that we're all familiar with.
Sure, and that's all what we're talking about. Right. Okay, Mary, follow along with me. I'll try to get the page numbers right here.
Which part?
On page 2.
Are you with the summary?
The one you handed out tonight.
The detail.
Just the detail, yeah.
Yeah.
I told you, these are the red flags that come up to me, okay? So
Okay,
bear
what
with
page?
me and just for my,
What page did you say?
for page 2, 1240.15, instructional salaries for central office. It's flat. What, I mean, typically things don't remain flat. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm looking at the actuals you gave me. Is there a number for the actuals?
In essence, for next year, part of Vince's salary is in that code, and Vince is retiring, and congratulations, Vince. And when you replace the person that retires, generally you're replacing with a lower salary. Sorry,
Ellen, she said it, I did.
So, sorry, should I be sending those extras in?
I'm still negotiating.
Okay, so you're remaining in flat, but that should theoretically decrease.
Potentially, but maybe not.
Okay. Okay. See, I guess that's my point. I mean, if it's going to go down, it's going to go down. It's going to go up, it's going to go up. I don't know how much that's going to be. You know, probably $6, but you know. Okay. Page.
Just curious, Ed, at the budget meeting on Saturday, you guys didn't go through this?
I did. I went. I asked her for verification on these things, and I didn't get them. So I'm asking them now.
I don't
Okay.
have notes that you asked for specific on that.
No, I
Sorry.
asked. I told you that there was a red flag for me at that meeting, and now's the time I get to ask about it again. And you know, contractual service and fees, page 4, 9,000 to 25,000. What's the major driving
Yep,
factor
and we
there?
did talk about this on Saturday. We are recoding of salaries in that line item from, that's the tax collection section of the budget that we discussed. We're recoding it from the 1310 code. And the next item that was a change in salaries was the account clerk retirement.
So it's just a recoding from where?
Recoding from the 1310 code.
From the 1310?
So if you look at line item 1310.
Okay, it came down 12,000. Okay. All right, that's plain so.
And again, what we talked about on Saturday was the fact that, you know, with the first year of having the tax collection service at, you know, mid-budget or after budget, this budget is correcting, as we do each year with budgets, when you get more actual data, then you recode and
So what you're saying is,
correct as you go along each year.
so what you're saying is you recoded 12,000 and
Recoding and correcting based on.
based on
2
actuals.
years of
Based on actuals.
data.
Okay, great, thanks.
Instead of just 1 year, which for estimates the first
All
year.
right, that's good, thanks. Page 6, 1680.49, same thing. BOCES services remaining flat at $187,000.
The 1680-490 code, central data processing services. That in essence was very little change in our BOCES contract. If it only changes by a very small amount, it's a budget, I don't just change by $2 generally, especially with the BOCES code, because in this area, this was some of the, we didn't change the FTEs of the people that we're hiring, so this is the 0.6 and 0.4 that we were talking about.
So that's a representative
So it's
of
representative
actuals.
of our services.
That's a representative of actuals.
Of budget.
Of budget and
Services.
actuals, right?
When we develop the budget, we look at actuals, we also look at averages.
Sure.
Based on 3-year trends.
Sure.
So you are gonna have some line items that aren't going to change. They may go up, they may go down, but some
Right.
will remain flat.
Right, I mean, again, please forgive me.
That's
You know,
okay.
I believe that my fiduciary responsibility is to ask you if there's any gravy in there, okay? All
Right.
Okay.
My.
Page 9, same thing regarding in-service training. You know, 125,000. Did we spend 125,000, or is it projected to spend 125,000, and we're just gonna do the same thing again, or what?
It's a summer curriculum, right? Staff in, and it depends how many staff members decide to come in, generally we spend money.
Okay, so that's
We start leveraging line funds.
excellent, excellent.
We run it through BOCES, we compare staff members to BOCES, and we go through data.
Great.
It's another creative method.
Yeah, sure. Occupational educational programs on page 11. $284,383, identical 2015, same question.
Again, occupational education programs with service with BOCES, they calculate that specific one item on a 3-year average.
Okay.
So that we don't have major fluctuations and so that we can't just pull out the BOCES all at once and do. So again, it's just like some of the other items based on an average.
So is the numbers the
3
same?
years, but it may not come in exactly at $284,383.
But you're gonna be right there.
But it may not come right in the exact number.
No, but it's going to be in the general
But it will
vicinity.
be in the general vicinity.
Good, great.
If it isn't, it's as a result of after budget planning, multiple students being assigned there because they choose that as a OCED, as change in scheduling or something. But on average, when we budget, we base it on historical trends.
Great, thanks. Page 13. Bear with me, there's only a couple more to go. Page 13, health services. I guess this isn't a question of that. Just something that jumps out at anybody would be professional services. Last year were and this is a good thing. I mean, this is a good thing, y'all. Professional services were 54,000, and this year it's nothing. So consequently, the health services went down considerably. It's a great thing, but just
The position that we just talked about, the 1.0 FT.
okay, great,
So,
excellent.
okay, and we're
That's a great thing,
contracting
yeah.
with BOCES.
Yep.
So we utilize the services.
We are utilizing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. You know what I
Part
mean?
of the reason BOCES
No.
number went up, because that number went down.
Yeah, well, right.
Yeah, we talked about all of these items that I've done.
I don't know if we talked anything about Glenn, but, all right, you know, and there was only 4 of us there. Interscholastic athletics, we had a jump about 30,000. Page 14, I'm sorry.
14.
What's up?
We have retirements and instructional salaries for social workers.
No, I'm sorry,
I'm
page-
sorry. That's
page
the
14.
trainer, training certificates, all of the additional expenses that, to assist us with being.
So the trainers stuff went up this year?
Wait, so it's all the certifications that for the.
Yes, that's part of it, the training certificate, and the services of athletic trainer hasn't gone up that full amount, but
Yeah.
a small amount.
Where's
The
the
contract goes up.
certificates? In what line item?
That would be contractual.
Contractual.
Yep. And any
Okay.
additional training, we did provide AED training. and
So-
that
so-
There's a training.
So
There's a lot of new requirements.
So the certificates are costing us 14,000 a year?
No, it's all of the items I just listed.
Okay.
The trainer, training, certificates, DASA training, there's a lot of additional
Training for all students, I think.
required
Sure.
training.
They have to train them.
Sure.
Referees?
Right. Referees are in there, there's, and their fees go up, but I'm not quite sure the detail behind it.
Great, thanks. On page 18, I'd just like to make a point, I know the presentation makes point of this as well, but, under employee benefits, the retirements are something that we just can't control. I just want to make that clear again, and, the increases that we see there, albeit, obviously medical costs are going up a little bit. You get a bill from the state, and I just hope that our taxpayers understand that, like I do now, regarding what we can affect. So, that's it. And listen, from my point of view, this is a responsible budget. You guys have done a nice job keeping the increase to 1.5%, which is the cost of living. Unfortunately, the 1.9% proposed tax increase is heftier than that. But the state's got to come to scratch, giving us back our stuff that they've taken away. And so.
$8.2 million
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah. And you guys are comfortable, Bob, that this budget gives the teachers and the students what they need throughout this difficult time to get the job done?
They maintain traditional class sizes, it offers all of the existing programs, it offers professional development, and it offers training for new teachers, mentoring for new teachers. It offers a host of technology equipment that was indicated earlier, you may call it the press release that's been provided to our local media outlets. So to answer your question, yes. But I'd like to have that $8.2 million that we lost in opportunities, the gap elimination adjustment. Absolutely, I think we can do more. But we also have to be responsible.
Now, we had a meeting before this, and within this budget, the safety budget is going for a pilot program regarding school security. Is that new business? Okay. I just want, well, it's in the budget. But,
We
all
have,
right, good.
we have safety, we have safety dollars in the budget for the Board of Education to really move forward with safety enhancements, just like we did this year when the safety.
And I think that'll be on the agenda next week, after the discussion. John wasn't at the meeting, it will be on. If you want to bring it up, it will be in the minutes of the BG&T meeting.
Well, it was in the BG&T meeting that we were going to bring it up at this meeting. And so that's what the BG&T committee is now doing as a member of it. Yeah, it's going to be on video, so that's what the discussion was. That's what the discussion was, that we're going to bring it to the board for either A, being built into the budget with the dollars in there for the pilot program as per the New Hartford Police Department's recommendation for security at our schools. I want that clear. That's what we discussed. That's what we were going to talk about here.
That's what I understood.
Thank you, Paul.
We made the final thing about having a survey later on. I thought it was coming.
That's correct. Provide resources, service, including resources supporting PC, increased safety initiatives.
No.
Resumption school resource officers, upgrade security cameras, bullying prevention.
No, that's not the wording. The wording is that we were going to use the safety money in the budget.
I agree with everything else I just said. And I said school resource officers. I'm not disagreeing.
Okay, so it's the pilot program as discussed in the BG&T committee meeting. All right, great.
Along with the other initiatives.
Good, but that was built into the BG&T committee. The BG&T committee is recommending that pilot program go forward, and that it's in the budget to do so. Right.
No, that's what we wanted to discuss.
The budget is still on the floor, the vote for the budget.
Yeah, and again, I'd like to say thanks to everybody that developed it. It's at the cost of living. It's a responsible budget to bring to the taxpayers for a vote.
Right. Can I say that once again, this is my 7th year on the school board, and once again, you have done an excellent job. You and Bob have both done an excellent job keeping costs down and maintaining all the programs for our students. So I thank you again every single year. Yes, I know. I agree, and it's for the past 7 years, I've been doing it great, and longer.
I agree. All those in favor of the 2014-2015 budget, 48,476,46.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, E passes 6-0. Item F, professional development plan.
It is recommended that the district's 2013 professional development plan be approved.
Motion. Thank you, Lisa. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? F passes 6-0. Item 9, other business.
Yes. A couple of items. One, I believe we want to bring up a resolution regarding the New York State form agenda for us to discuss. Which you guys copies of that?
I do.
So that's one, two, that is that discussion.
We should keep pass this around.
Okay.
So I'm passing out 2 documents. One is a resolution that was passed a while ago, and the other is a summary of the recent changes or adjustments to the Common Core made by the Board of Regents, and I'll just kind of give you a little walkthrough to see how that went. I do have 2 extra copies. Sorry about that. But
Thanks.
and there's probably some extra copies of the state summary coming around someplace. So there extra one there?
Yeah, I
Just wanted,
You need one?
no, I just wanted to,
No, I got mine.
you got some extra resolution. All right, so if you want to just review the resolution a little bit, the first part is kind of a testimony to the kinds of things that we were seeing. Whereas the Regents Reform Agenda has created an unprecedented level of questioning and discontent regarding the Common Core policies and their impact on students and families and educators. Whereas the board is challenged by a very aggressive and difficult implementation plan to help teachers understand and prepare for the shifts in instruction. Whereas our students, particularly those in the intermediate, elementary, and junior high grades, face particular challenges of not having sufficient background in Common Core curriculum to assure success. Whereas due to the late and trickling release of modules, our intermediate and junior high teachers have not had sufficient time to become familiar with, prepare for Common Core curriculum. Whereas the increasing call for reform comes from diverse groups such as NICET, the New York State Assembly, and the New York State Council of School Superintendents, the voices are passionate and recommend change. And whereas the public trust in state education policy is rapidly eroding, jeopardizing the original intent of the Regents Reform Agenda, and then it's resolved that the New Hartford Board of Education calls upon the State Education Department, and then you have an 8-item list, and I just wanted to kind of walk through how that list, if any of those things were acted upon by the state in their February 2014 document, adjustment options to the Common Core implementation. You have the summary there in front of you. So the first one is to defer any new requirements or initiatives to give school a chance to effectively implement Common Core. There are two things specifically that were accomplished. One is in this, and one is just recently with the big one is they delayed the PARCC assessments by at least another year. And the PARCC assessments are multi-state tests that we were scheduled to begin next year in grades 3 through 8. And they are computer-based, so rather than students taking New York State tests, they're going to take tests developed in a consortium of 26 other states, and it would all be done on computers, and that was scheduled to begin next year. Now, that's been delayed. Also, I think recently it just came out that the governor is either signed or considering signing, delaying the impact of APPR and the test scores it would have on teacher evaluation. So those are a couple of changes that relate to your item number 1. Number 2, defer any Common Core exams required for high school graduation or provide either 2 cut scores, one indicating passing for graduation purposes and a second higher score which would indicate a student is meeting grade level expectations for the Common Core. That was adapted almost word for word. So that bullet item is in place. The Common Core Regents exams this year for New Hartford is algebra. That's the one that is coming. And all of our students will take the Common Core algebra. They'll also take the traditional Regents. And what the state did is they made 2 cut scores, one for college aspiration level and one for graduation level purposes. And it's the class of 2022, the current 4th graders, that must reach only the aspirational level. And it does provide some relief for those students that they're going to be able to graduate, be able to pass that graduation score. 3, create an advisory council comprised of teachers, administrators, and other community members to review the Common Core standards and its implementation. They do have a task force that's what put this together, so I think there's some movement there. But the other thing that I was very encouraged with, if you look on the summary on page 2, down at the bottom, number 1, where it says Common Core standards, periodically review and update the Common Core standards. So the Board of Regents is calling upon the Governors Association and the Chief State School Officers to reconvene, because right now, as we discussed before, there is no mechanism to adjust the Common Core standards. They were written, they were adopted. There is no governing body that could make any adjustments. There's no plans for a Common Core 2.0, for example. And the Board of Regents is recommending that happen, that they go back to the table and take a look and adjust those standards as necessary. So while that's not on our list, I think that is an encouraging sign, and glad to see that. Shorten the state assessments for students in grades 3 through 8. I think they did shorten them. I don't think they shortened them enough. It's my editorial position. But, you know, technically there was some shortening. Disclose test questions to allow use by educators to help inform instruction. They have released some test questions, and it is an issue. And it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because if you release the test questions, then they got to field test more. And you heard tonight some of the concerns with field testing. Not only do our kids have to take the tests, and some of the field tested questions are embedded in the test, so the students won't know which questions count and which ones are being field tested. But the state says they don't have enough field testing embedded. So they call upon districts to field test additional questions later in the year that, you know, I'm sure the principals and teachers are not happy about. They have to kind of administer these as well. So the state is always faced with, if we disclose the questions and let you see them so the teachers can use the test questions to see how our kids did, then they can't use that question again. So they have to come up with a new question and field test it. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But they have released sample questions, and it's been helpful. Were you part of that? We had a teacher center workshop of looking at some of those some of those released questions. Yeah,
So we're still evaluating the state budget, what's been adopted. Communication I've received, it's saying the state imposed a number of requirements on SCD designed to address Common Core implementation issues, like increasing the number of questions released after each exam. So I think you're going to see some.
They're going to try to release some more.
Vince, how long are these field tests going to be? Is it going to be another 90-minute test? It's all just.
They're shorter, but
it's about we're doing science, and it's about a 45-minute test.
So it's not overly burdensome, but you know, after you've taken 6 days of it, the last thing you want to do is do one that doesn't count. Number 6 is on the back side of your handout. Review and endorse curriculum models and materials from publishers other than core knowledge and expeditionary learning. That's not taking place. And where I put that here is those are the modules. Core knowledge and expeditionary learning are the authors of the modules. And right now, that's really the only training state education is provided. So because we're not using the modules in a lot of our grade levels, we're kind of on our own. We're not getting any training from the state. So that's that. Number 7 is adequately address the public's need for assurances of privacy of student information. That's the in bloom. And my understanding is that severing the ties with in bloom.
That came out from the state budget.
And the last one is to provide adequate funding for all students to meet the requirements and challenges of the Common Core standards.
Not so much.
And that's really a Mary question and a Bob question. And so our district is fortunate that we do provide an adequate amount of professional development. For me, professional development is kind of like garlic. You never get enough. You know, it's you get down in it. So, you know, it's really, I just can't pull them out of class all the time to be able to give that professional development. But we're blessed with teachers that attend. I work with a great team with Tina and Sandy and the principals to try to identify what those needs are and to try to continue to provide that professional development. I'll issue my support for the summer curriculum work. Lots gets done in the summer. It's more relaxed. Teachers can take a little breather. They're not trying to train while they're teaching classes. And it's just a great time to be able to kind of regroup, revamp, take a look at what we've done and get ready for the coming year.
Vince, doesn't CAP kick off in June? I mean, when that becomes
Well,
the CAP process?
we've moved it to August more recently, and that's because we won't get the state results back. So we moved CAP to later in the year, but it is summer. So, you know, I think there's some, we were right on target with some of these. There's some that they have not yet addressed, that we talked about advocacy or lobbying efforts, and there's maybe some items there that you could pick up on the lobbying and continue to try to support our efforts here.
They listened to us a lot.
They did. They did.
Thank you, Vince.
And just under other business again, still evaluating the adoption of the state budget, but the tax increase that was indicated this evening, there's a property tax rebate to homeowners in school districts that proposed budgets at or below the tax levy limit. So we are below the tax levy limit. Our residents will get a property tax rebate. I do not know the details of how that's going to work, but the net effect to homeowners will be zero.
Really? That's great.
Just before election, you will get that check. You know that's how they get it done. One for executive session. Regarding the employment history of the person.